Hello and welcome. You're watching the news tonight, your daily roundup of all the news that happened in India and across the world. I'm Ishan Russell, and first let's take you through the headlines we're tracking right now. High turnouts mark voting for the second phase of elections. Jammu and Kashmir records polling percentage of 71%. Jharkhand polls over 65%. Parliament disrupted over public remarks by Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti. Opposition members refused to accept apology by the Minister of State. The RBI resists pressure from industry and government, says key rates will remain unchanged for now despite falling inflation. And the Kenyan president pledges war against the Al-Shabaab group after Monday's massacre, fires the interior minister and replaces the national police chief. Right, a top story tonight. The Reserve Bank of India refused to give in to market pressures and opted to keep rates unchanged. RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan asserted that the RBI wouldn't change its stance till inflation is fully tamed. But he indicated that rate cuts could come early in 2015.
Home loan EMIs are unlikely to fall anytime soon. The RBI retained interest rates in its monetary policy for the fifth time in a row. The repo rate at which RBI lends to banks remained at 8%. Cash reserve ratio, the amount of funds banks have to keep with the RBI, was left unchanged at 4%. RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan expressed his unwavering commitment to keep inflation bottled for a longer period, but indicated that rates could be slashed early next year.
A change in the monetary policy stance at the current juncture, is premature. However, if the current inflation momentum and changes in inflationary expectations continue and fiscal developments are encouraging, a change in the monetary policy stance is likely early next year, including outside the policy review cycle.
The industry expressed disappointment as falling inflation rekindled hopes of cheaper loans.
We are upset with this situation. Actually, we are hoping that industry needs a rate cut badly to revive the economy.
However, analysts find Rajan's move pragmatic.
He wants to continue with that stance for larger period. He doesn't want to take one step and then move two steps backward.
Wholesale inflation plunged to a 5-year low of 1.77% in October, triggering demands for lower borrowing costs to boost investment and consumer spending. The next monetary policy is slated for 3rd February 2015, but the RBI governor didn't rule out a rate revision outside the policy calendar, depending on future price movements. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
News from Parliament now, where frequent disruptions were witnessed over the controversial remarks made by Union Minister of State Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti. Amid all-round condemnation, Niranjan Jyoti apologized in both houses, but the opposition parties refused to be placated, demanding immediate dismissal and legal prosecution. The members forced 6 adjournments in the Rajya Sabha alone.
Soon after Rajya Sabha met for the day, Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti's alleged inflammatory speech stoked an uproar. Members of Congress, BSP, SP and the JDU accused the minister of using an expletive during an election rally. Strongly objecting to her remarks, they demanded her resignation.
सरकार से, सरकार के मंत्रियों से यह अपेक्षा की जाती है कि वो सभ्य भाषा का प्रयोग करेंगे, उनका व्यवहार हमारी राजनीति में, प्रजातंत्र में मर्यादापूर्ण होगा।
केंद्र की सरकार को चाहिए कि उनसे इस्तीफा लेना चाहिए और यदि वो इस्तीफा नहीं देती है तो केंद्र की सरकार को चाहिए कि उनको बर्खास्त करना चाहिए। इस मामले की उच्च स्तरीय जांच भी होनी चाहिए और इनके ऊपर एफआईआर दर्ज होनी चाहिए और इनके खिलाफ कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए।
The TMC and the CPM, on the other hand, took up the issue of Prime Minister's absence from Parliament.
My request to you on this issue is to please grant a visa to the Prime Minister of India to come to Rajya Sabha. That is the issue. You have to grant him a visa.
Forget bringing black money from abroad, bring a Prime Minister from abroad. Sir, please bring him here. Please bring him here.
The Treasury and opposition benches witnessed sharp verbal exchanges even as MOS Parliamentary Affairs Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi tried to broker truce. As the protests continued, the chair adjourned the House for 10 minutes.
House is adjourned for 10 minutes.
When the House reassembled, the united opposition raked up the issue again. The minister expressed regret over her remark.
Will not do.
Yeah, Mr. Minister. Yes, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister.
और अपना शब्द वापस लेती हूँ।
क्या बोला?
अगर आपको लगता है तो हम माफी भी
अपॉलॉजी हो गया।
और हाउस को लग रहा है तो मैं माफी भी मांगने के लिए तैयार हूँ।
The question hour couldn't be taken up due to the opposition disruptions as they demanded legal action against the minister. Various members said her remarks went against the pluralistic nature of Indian constitution.
इस मामले में जो लोगों का कहना है कि पहले इसमें एफआईआर दर्ज होना चाहिए और क्रिमिनल केस दर्ज होना चाहिए, नहीं तो ये बंद नहीं होगा। लगातार इस तरह के बयान होंगे और देश में इस तरह के पूरे देश भर में धर्म और जात और कई तरह के लोगों के चलते आज चर्च के अंदर कभी नहीं हुआ, हिंदुस्तान में चर्च के अंदर हुआ। इसलिए इसका समाधान आप सभापति जी, आप कस्टोडियन है, आपको इस पे एफआईआर करा के इस मिनिस्टर को दंड देना चाहिए, बर्खास्त करना चाहिए। इसके सिवा रास्ता आगे नहीं होगा।
Leader of Rajya Sabha Arun Jaitley said the minister had apologized and what happens outside is beyond the purview of the House.
This house is not an investigative agency or an agency which is going to pronounce whether an offence has been committed or not. Therefore, as far as this House proceedings are concerned, I would urge the honourable members of the opposition, the minister having expressed regret and specifically apologized, withdrawn her statement, the proceedings of the House should be allowed to continue.
As the protests continued, the chair first adjourned the House for 10 minutes, then till 2 p.m.
House is adjourned for 10 minutes.
Even in the post-lunch session, there were little signs of reconciliation.
The point is, since the guilt has been established, admitted in this House, let the government tell us an FIR is being filed. Let the government say an FIR is being filed, and till that FIR, this investigation goes on, she steps down.
As the members crowded the well, the chair first adjourned the House for 10 minutes, then till Wednesday. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
And Union Minister Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti apologized for her controversial remarks in the Lok Sabha as well. Prior to the apology, the House witnessed opposition uproar. Question hour had to be adjourned. Minister of State for Food Processing Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti tendered an apology, claiming that all those living in India were children of Lord Ram. She said that she had not intended to hurt anyone's feelings when she made that remark in Delhi.
हमने सदस्य से बात किया। सदस्य इस विषय में खेद व्यक्त करने के लिए तैयार है। वो अपना आप मौका दीजिए, वो खेद व्यक्त करें।
जी, माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदय, सदन के बाहर मेरा जो वक्तव्य है, मुझे किसी को दुख पहुंचाने का इरादा नहीं था। मेरा कोई इरादा नहीं था, ना है, लेकिन जो बात मेरे मुख से निकली है, मैं दिल से उसको खेद प्रकट करती हूँ और स्वीकार करती हूँ।
And in the 0 hour, CPIM leader P. Karunakaran raised the issue of a fire at a church in East Delhi. It has been alleged that there is mischief involved in the incident. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Venkaiah Naidu assured the House that Home Minister Rajnath Singh would make a statement once he returns from Chhattisgarh.
There are about 1,500 devotees. They are going every day in this church. When we have gone there, we have seen that this church was fully damaged. So there is no doubt that it was a pre-planned attempt. We can't believe that it is accidental or of the short circuit or all that. It is done by some other persons, we don't know.
The incident is condemnable without any reservation. And I will be requesting my senior colleague, Sri Rajnath Singh ji, who has gone to Chhattisgarh. Once he comes back, he will make a thorough inquiry into what has happened and then inform the House.
Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters raised slogans outside the Delhi police headquarters a day after the incident. Protesters gathered in the heart of the city demanding justice and more security for the minority community. Police have registered a case of arson on the complaint of the church authorities.
And I will be
Well, today was, of course, the second phase of polling in Jammu and Kashmir and Jharkhand, and they both saw record voter turnouts. In fact, in the 5-stage assembly elections that are on right now, J&K recorded 74% polling, while over 64% of the eligible voters turned out in Jharkhand to cast their franchise.
Overall average percentage of the entire phase 2 is 71%, which compares with 68.79% in the general elections of 2008.
Another strong reply from Jammu and Kashmir, another rejection of anti-democracy elements days after the state had polled a record 70% in the first phase. Voting in this phase faced a backdrop of recent terrorist violence in the run-up and warnings from trouble elements. After a slow start, turnout figures made up later. Riyasi recorded the highest 80% polling, followed by 76% in Udhampur. 75% of eligible voters turned out to vote in Poonch. Some of the most sensitive areas, Kupwara, Kulgam, Gulabgarh, Gul Arnas and others, recorded 60% plus turnout, substantial leaps over the last assembly elections.
सर्दी में इस वक्त में आया है कि हमें बहुत परेशानियां है, सैलाब भी आया है, यहाँ बेरोजगारी भी है, डेवलपमेंट की बातें भी है, इसलिए हमें पावर की कमी है, इसलिए हमें वोट डालना पड़ता है कि लोकल इंतजामिया, लोकल जो हमारे काम मसाइल है वो हल किया जाएगा.
In all the poll-bound 20 segments in Jharkhand, it was brisk polling from the start amid tight security and a large team of observers from the state and centre. In just 4 hours, over 32% of the electorate had cast their ballot. The count was 50% plus at 1 p.m, setting the stage for a turnout bigger than the 62% recorded in the first phase.
On average, till now, the turnout is known to be 64.99%. 64.99% in the entire state for the second phase for 20 assembly constituencies. And if you add first phase and second phase together, then the turnout is so far is 64.23%.
The highest number of tribal constituencies went to polls in this phase. 16 out of 20 segments are reserved for scheduled castes. Outcomes here will reflect tribal expectations. That's besides two key urban segments, Jamshedpur East and Jamshedpur West, the first truly urban centres going to polls in the ongoing elections. They'll reflect the trend for voting in Ranchi and Dhanbad. In the sustained high turnout, analysts point out signals of a desire for change.
बेरोजगारी बढ़ते ही जा रहा है, देखते हैं नक्सल प्रभावित एरिया है, कुछ नहीं करते हैं सरकार, जहाँ था जब तब मार के चल जाते हैं. खूंटी तो ऐसे भी पॉपुलर हो चुका है, जब किसी को जो भी बिजनेस करते हैं वो लोग ले भी वसूलते हैं. ये सब सुधरेगा, इसीलिए सोच रहे हैं इस बार कुछ नई सरकार. इतने साल में मतलब 10 साल हो गया होगा, 8 बार तो हम लोग चीफ मिनिस्टर बदल चुके हैं.
Both Jammu and Kashmir and Jharkhand now go to polls in the third phase of the 5-stage elections on the 9th of December. December 23rd is the counting day for both states. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, moving on to neighbouring Chhattisgarh, where Home Minister Rajnath Singh visited the state today to pay homage to the 14 CRPF men killed in the Maoist attack in Sukma district yesterday. He announced 38 lakh rupees as ex gratia payment to the relatives of each of the CRPF jawans martyred in Sukma and 65,000 to each of those injured.
A day after the deadly ambush and massacre of the 14 CRPF jawans by Maoists in the Sukma district of Chhattisgarh, the Home Minister expressing his condolences to the families of the victims. Meanwhile, the state government airlifted the injured security personnel to a hospital in Raipur.
14 शहीद जवान शहीद हो चुके हैं. 15-20 की जो मुझे प्राप्त जानकारी आई कि 15-20 जो है घायल हैं. अभी सब घायलों को रायपुर पहुंचाने का प्रयास किया गया है और जो शहीद हुए उनको भी रायपुर लाएंगे.
In neighbouring Uttar Pradesh, family members mourned the loss of CRPF Deputy Commandant B.S. Verma, who was one of the victims of the tragedy. Verma is survived by his wife, 2 children, parents and younger brother Arun.
लगभग 2 दिन पहले हुई थी, तो उन्होंने कहा था 2 तारीख को हम आ जाएंगे. आज को आना था उनको वापस. सर्च के लिए, सर्च अभियान में था।
कैसे सूचना आप लोगों को मिली?
हमें शाम को बाई फ़ोन से सूचना मिली थी, तो उन्होंने कहा हमला हुआ, तो हम लोगों ने न्यूज़ चैनल देखना शुरू कर दिया। और फिर रात में इन्होंने रिटर्न में बताया कि ये घटना हुई।
The uncle of another dead soldier, Radhesham Paswan, said the family was grief-stricken but at the same time felt proud of their son.
दुखी हूँ, भारत के लिए शहीद, देश के रक्षा के लिए शहीद हुआ, मैं इसके लिए दुखी नहीं हूँ।
Political leaders said that the ruling BJP government needs to revisit its strategy of engaging with the extremists.
Such rampant instances of Naxalism, and this instance where 14 of our personnel have died, is the biggest this year. It is time to rethink the strategy on Naxalism and on Naxal terror, and to ensure that Modi government deals with them with an iron hand.
The government has indicated that it is taking this threat seriously. We must deal with these issues on two fronts. One is by cracking down with force, but the other also has to be to extend more developmental activities in those areas, and I hope both will be done.
14 suspected Naxalites were also killed in Monday's gunfight that lasted over 4 hours. 15 people were injured. The Naxalites carried off sophisticated weapons belonging to the security personnel in the encounter. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
News from Maharashtra now, where after a month-long standoff over sharing of ministerial berths, the Shiv Sena and the BJP finally came to an agreement. Sena has decided to join the Devendra Fadnavis-led government in Maharashtra. According to the pact, Sena will be allotted 12 ministries, out of which 5 berths will be that of the cabinet rank. The swearing-in ceremony is likely to take place on Wednesday. Now, this development comes a day after Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis appeared the outcome of the talks with the Shiv Sena, saying negotiations over power sharing were about 70 to 80% complete. However, the formal announcement in this regard is likely to be delayed in the wake of the demise of veteran Congress leader and former Maharashtra Chief Minister A.R. Antule.
बहुत सकारात्मक ऐसी हमारी बातचीत हुई है और काफ़ी हद तक हम लोग करीब आए हैं। तो ये सारी चीज़ों का ब्रीफिंग करने के लिए मैं यहाँ आया था। हमारे राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष जी को मैंने पूरी परिस्थिति जो है वो ब्रीफ की हुई है और मुझे विश्वास है कि हम दोनों पार्टियां जल्दी ही साथ आ पाएंगे और निश्चित रूप से हम अलायंस कर पाएंगे।
Well, let's now get you all the other national news and updates in Nationwide. Congress veteran and Maharashtra's first Muslim Chief Minister Abdul Rahman Antule died on Tuesday following prolonged illness. He was 85. Antule passed away at the Breach Candy Hospital, where he was admitted a few days ago. He served as the Chief Minister of Maharashtra before being forced to resign after being convicted by the Bombay High Court, which charged him with extortion of money for a trust fund. The All Assam Students' Union protested the government's decision to swap territory with Bangladesh in Assam today. The two countries inched closer to settling a long-simmering border dispute. A parliamentary committee has urged the government to table a constitutional amendment that would pave the way for a land swap deal that India and Bangladesh have been negotiating for years. Public sector bank employees started a relay strike today, with employees of the southern region going on strike today. The All India Bank Employees Association claims that about 22,000 branches of PSU banks were closed in South India and 1.5 lakh employees took part in the strike. Meanwhile, the employees in North India will follow suit on Wednesday. Subsequently, there will be a strike on the 4th of December by the Eastern Zone and on 5th by the Western Zone. And one of Bollywood's leading funny men, actor Devendra Verma, died today in Mumbai. He was 77. In a career spanning over 51 years, Devendra Verma starred in many memorable roles. His most famous performances in films directed by Hrishikesh Mukherjee, Basu Chatterjee and Gulzar. He'll always be remembered for his double role opposite Sanjeev Kumar in 1982's Angur, the Hindi adaptation of Shakespeare's The Comedy of Errors. We leave you with pictures of Devendra and we take a quick break and we'll be right back with more.
मेरी कोई शादी नहीं हुई है, मेरी कोई बीवी नहीं है, साली नहीं है, साहब आप पागल हो गए।
अगर आपके हाथ में ये 5 पैसे की बीड़ी की जगह
50 रुपए का सिगार होता और ये टोपी की जगह हैट होती, झब्बे की जगह सूट और पैर में विदेशी बूट।
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight and some international news now. Well, a day after Islamic extremists killed 36 non-Muslim quarry workers, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta announced a security shake-up on Tuesday, firing his interior minister and accepting the resignation of the National Police Chief. Public pressure had been mounting for the two officials to be replaced after a string of extremist attacks. Al-Shabaab, the terror group that was behind Monday's killings, says the latest attack was a response to Kenya's true presence in Somalia and alleged atrocities committed by the Kenyan army there. Kenyatta has pledged to wage a war against Al-Shabaab.
The obvious intent is to create hostility and suspicion across ethnic and religious lines and to drive non-Muslims from certain parts of this country. We will not flinch or relent in the war against terrorism in our country and our region. We shall continue to inflict painful casualties on these terrorists until we secure our country and region.
News from Hong Kong, where the violence is still escalating and co-founders of Central Occupy movement today repeated their calls for protesters to retreat. Occupy Central leaders even went on to say that they were ready to surrender before the police. Meanwhile, away from the front, the whole episode is straining diplomatic relations between China and Britain following China's decision to bar British probe committee from entering Hong Kong.
Retreat was the call for protesters in Hong Kong on Tuesday. Founders of Occupy Central Civil Disobedience Movement said that they feared more violence, even as they offered to surrender to protest in the interest of maintaining a more peaceful dissent.
We respect the students' and citizens' determination to fight for democracy, but we are furious at the government's heartless indifference. For the sake of our original intention of love and peace, as we prepare to surrender, we free urge the students to retreat.
Amid a conflict of interest, student leaders remained adamant on continuing with their protests. Student leader Joshua Wong started a hunger strike to demand talks with the Hong Kong government for political reforms.
I don't think it's so effective because what we need now is a possible outcome for democracy of the universal suffrage. That's what we are fighting for.
Repercussions of the protest, however, extended beyond Hong Kong, spilling over into the diplomatic arena. China refused to allow Britain's Foreign Affairs Committee entry to Hong Kong. An emergency debate was held in the House of Commons to discuss the ban. However, China rebuffed Britain's Prime Minister Cameron's complaints, calling them useless.
以任何的方式干预香港事务的立场也是坚决的。如果英方的某些人 还想继续纠缠下去。
Initially, Occupy Central led the pro-democracy protests, but was later on taken over by student leaders. Both want China to scrap plans to screen candidates for the 2017 election. Occupy Central said they still plan to continue work through public debates and community education. But on the ground, even after 2 months of protests, demonstrators achieved nothing by the way of concessions. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And with all the other international news and updates, this is Global Buzz. NATO countries have set up 4 trust fronts to help modernize the Ukrainian army as Russia continues to arm the rebels in the country. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has declared a gas war on Europe. Russia on Tuesday cancelled a £25 billion gas pipeline to southern Europe and replaced it with a new route via Turkey. US President Barack Obama has made a clarion call to improve policing standards in the country. This comes in the wake of the recent protests over the Ferguson incident. Obama also requested Congress to provide $263 million to improve police training, pay for body cameras, and restore trust in policing. Over 50 fishermen remain missing after their ship sank in the West Bering Sea on Monday. South Korean officials said that 7 crew members were rescued and 1 body has been recovered so far. However, bad weather conditions are hampering search and rescue operations. The crew included 35 Indonesians, 13 Filipinos, 11 South Koreans, and 1 Russian inspector. The United Nations has suspended food aid for Syrian refugees in Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey, Iraq, and Egypt due to lack of funds. The UN agency, the World Food Programme, said the consequences of halting the assistance would be devastating for refugees who are already struggling to survive the harsh winter. All right, we'll take a quick break right now, but coming up on the other side, India and Australia and England, the one-day series has been rescheduled. More on that on the other side. Welcome back. Here with the news tonight and some sports news now. Well, the one-day series between India, Australia and England, in fact, has been rescheduled. India will now take on Australia in the second ODI of the Tri-Series on the 18th of January after Cricket Australia decided to swap the first 2 matches to give appropriate recovery time to the Indian players following the rescheduling of the 4 Test series. According to the revised schedule, the first match of the series will now be played between Australia and England at Sydney on the 16th of January, while India will take on the hosts in the second game in Melbourne. Cricket Australia also revised the test itinerary, delaying the first test by 5 days. The reschedule was done following the death of Aussie batsman Philip Hughes. Hughes will be laid to rest on Thursday. Well, that's a wrap on the news tonight. But before we go, an industrial disaster that changed the lives of generations. A gas leak that affected thousands and continues to do so. 30 years have passed since that fateful day when toxic gas leaked from the Union Carbide factory and enveloped the entire city of Bhopal. They say time is a great healer, but for those people who were affected, this holds little meaning. We leave you with images from the day disaster struck Bhopal. Good night.
When I saw the leaves on the trees curl and turn black and birds fall dead out of the sky, I knew that this was death coming among us as foretold. My regret is that I survived.